What's good, Dub Nation? You're watching Golden State Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. So much to get to on today's show, and we start with Carmelo Anthony. He's still available on the NBA free agency market, and could he replace Otto Porter Jr.? Now, Carmelo Anthony would be able to do some things offensively, like what Otto Porter Jr. brought to the table last year for the reigning NBA champions. Defensively, not the same, but this idea coming from what we talked about here on Warriors Today, but I saw an article from Sports Illustrated. It was an opinion piece that the Warriors should sign Carmelo Anthony as a role player. Now, a lot of you watching right now are probably already in the comment section saying, I'm all in on Melo, or don't sign Melo. Here's why Melo to the Warriors makes a lot of sense. They don't need much on this roster right now. With the blend of veteran talent, star power talent, as well as some of the young pieces. And they'll start to fill out that roster, maybe with some summer league players like a Mac McClung to compete in NBA training camp, which is only a couple months away. Also, Melo would add shooting off the bench. At points last year, came in off the bench for the Los Angeles Lakers, was able to stroke the basketball really well. You do not want him starting at this point of his career as he's in his late 30s. But as a shooting threat off the bench, I happen to really like it for a team that would be able to give him a lot of open looks. And for Carmelo, he's a future basketball Hall of Famer, one of the best offensive players that we have ever seen in the history of this great and beautiful game. But what's missing on the mantle? What's missing on the resume? The fact that Carmelo has not won a championship yet. And if he's able to ride off into the sunset, winning a championship with the Dubs, it would be a feel-good moment for Melo, for Warriors fans, and the NBA in general. Could Melo replace Otto Porter Jr.? I think he could, especially if he's willing to take a veteran minimum deal. And if you pay a vet min deal for a shooter, that's pretty good value there for a guy who can play about 15 minutes per night. That's about what Otto Porter gave you night in, night out. Now, he certainly lacks the defense of Otto Porter, who is really good in the finals, started a couple of finals games, really good on switches, but actually with the Trailblazers, last year with the Lakers, Carmelo, he's been putting forward more effort on the defensive end of the floor. Now, you don't want him playing 26 minutes per game like he was last year for the Lakers. But last year, LA was often injured. They had one of the oldest rosters that we've ever seen. That's a fact. 13 points per game, though, pretty solid. And then you look at the shooting numbers here. With less minutes, could Carmelo connect on about 40% of his looks, especially in this moving system that the Warriors have that caters itself to players getting vacant opportunities to let the ball fly from beyond the arc? I think he could average around 40% from distance because of those reasons. And from the field, about 44%. So the fit makes sense. The storyline would certainly be awesome. And the Dubs have a need for a forward because they did lose Otto Porter Jr. in free agency. Now, of course, you want those young players to take on that new role, but also you need some veterans on this team as well. And we know that Steph, Clay, Draymond, they would have no problems taking in Carmelo Anthony to try to help him chase that next ring. I want to hear from all of Dub Nation right now in the comment section. Everybody watching, you better get your votes in. Should the Dubs sign Melo? Give me an S for sign or a P for pass. Summer League has wrapped up in Las Vegas, and the big takeaway for the Warriors as we pivot to James Wiseman has been the young kid. James Wiseman playing 4 consecutive games to conclude Summer League play, and he looked really good. There were some great moments, and there were some moments where you're like, yeah, he needs to grow in these certain areas. Rounds out his Summer League performances with this game against the Washington Wizards, where he produced 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 5 of 13 from the floor. Every single game that Wiseman played, he had a block. And this guy has a lethal ability to impact games on both ends of the floor as a shot blocker and a rim runner, and a guy who can just be tremendous as a screen and roller to the hoop. As for what the Warriors' now lead assistant said, Jama Malela, who now takes the role on that bench As Mike Brown departed to take the Sacramento Kings head coaching job, he talked about Wiseman and what he did in the Summer League. It just bodes well for the rest of the summer with how Wiseman played. He can now do developmental work and not do rehab work. That's a fundamentally different thing for him. And we're just, as a coaching staff and organization, excited for that process and for him to learn and grow and come into training camp a different player because he's actually had a summer where he can work. And we were able to see the big takeaways for Wiseman, the work that he was able to really display throughout Summer League because finally he's not working about rehabbing and he's not working on rehabbing an injury, I should say. He was finally able to just focus in on his game and not have any distractions. And we saw a tantalizing player who can be tremendous for this Warriors team. Can you imagine how good he can be on that pick and roll when he goes to the cup and defenses have to go out to the three-point arc if it's Steph Curry operating that two-man game with James Wiseman because they're worried about the threat of Curry, Klay Thompson shooting the basketball? And what if it's Draymond from the top of the key operating a little two-man game with James Wiseman, given his passing ability to find Wiseman streak into the cup or other players around the three-point arc? I'm telling you, folks, the ability on both ends and the potential of James Wiseman can be a game changer for a team that last year already won an NBA championship. So those are some of my big takeaways on James Wiseman from NBA Summer League. What is your biggest takeaway from what Wiseman was able to do in Las Vegas in those 4 games? Let me know right now and spit your basketball knowledge in the comment section. You can watch our Warriors content on YouTube. You can also catch us on Rumble as well. And sometimes you don't want to miss it. We put exclusive content on Rumble. In addition to Warriors content, you can find sports videos, news, politics, tech, and business. We continue to grow to the platforms that you use. And obviously, you guys have been enjoying our content because we have thousands of followers on the Rumble side of things, in addition to 42,000 subs here on YouTube. So give us a follow today. It's rumble.com/WarriorsTV. On Sunday's show, we talked about Andre Iguodala, the Warriors leaving a vacant roster spot open for him. If he wants to continue his NBA career, they're going to leave that roster spot open for him. If he wants to call it quits and retire after what is probably going to be a Hall of Fame career, then they'll occupy that roster spot elsewhere. Andre Iguodala was asked about his future, and it looks as though he's leaving the door ajar to continue his NBA career. And if that's the case, he's going to run it back with the Warriors on the back end of that bench as a rotational player. He said this: I like basketball. I actually like training too. Summer training is probably the hardest thing. People don't understand that to really get ready for a season, what your body has to go through. I'm trying to reflect on the season right now, enjoy it, enjoy being a champion. And if that time comes, I don't know if it's going to be a tough decision, but I'm ready for whatever. The thing that I don't want to see misconstrued, or I don't want the perception thrown out there, is that I am a coach. I don't want to get thrown into just go coach. That's not a route I'm looking forward to taking, not at all. And basically what Iguodala said on top of that, I'm a businessman who happens to be a basketball player. So a lot of people want Iguodala to be involved on this Warriors coaching staff if he doesn't decide to keep playing because people value his basketball smarts, his basketball pedigree, his basketball IQ. Looks as though he wants to continue his business ventures after his basketball ventures are wrapping up. And for the Warriors, if he comes back to play, he could be a de facto coach because we see him oftentimes talking to players after he's on the bench and they're coming to the bench after a timeout or a stoppage in play. And the Warriors certainly value that and his veteran presence. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Iguodala. He's leaving the door open for potentially continuing his NBA career. And if he doesn't, it looks as though Warriors fans want him to be a coach. He does not want to go that route. So weigh in. Let us know. What do you think the move is for Iggy and Golden State? Do you want him to come back? Type CB in the comment section. Not for Corner Bakery. Type R for retire. What do you think the Warriors should do with Andre Iguodala? And lastly, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We've been giving you videos basically every single day here on the channel. The numbers show that. That's why we've been able to compile more than 2 million views over the last month here on Warriors Today. Don't miss our content, so you better subscribe.